Hey folks, welcome back to the shop. Frank here, working on the motor grader belt drive system, and I'm going to try a different way to tension the belts. Normally when you see pieces of equipment, a lot of times the belts are tensioned by tilting the motor and loosening it so that you can get the belts over the pulleys, and then tightening a screw or something to adjust the belt tension by moving the motor, pivoting the motor. So I'm going to actually try that on the motor grader here. That eliminates tensioning pulleys and that sort of thing, so it's results in the simplest and I think the most reliable belt tensioning arrangement. The question is, can I manage to implement such a thing by tilting the engine? I've unbolted the engine. I'll show you what I've done. So I've pulled the engine, it normally sits over here, pulled it out, and it's just sitting on a couple of boards here to hold it. And I'm working on the base plate. There's a plate that bolts to the engine that then bolts to the frame. So that's how the engine is mounted to the frame. I'm going to create another plate which the engine will bolt to, and that will pivot off of the mounting plate. So this is the plate that the engine bolts to, 1, 2, 3, 4 bolts, and then these slots go down in the frame through 4 bolts and gets bolted to the frame. The slots give you some adjustment for aligning the motor pulley to the drive shaft pulley. So I'm going to keep this plate and build another plate that the engine will actually bolt to. It won't bolt to this plate, it'll bolt to another plate that I'll mount here so that it pivots up and down. And then we'll adjust it so that we can pivot it down to put the belt on, and then tighten it to tension the belts. So that's my plan right now. I've got the plasma table set up, so here's the plate that I'm going to cut out. It's all modeled in Fusion. All right, so we'll pull that G-code into Fire Control, which is the software which drives the plasma table. So here the rectangle is. It's 11 by 8 inches approximately. All right, I've got the plasma table set up. This first piece I'm just going to cut from a piece of 16 gauge sheet metal for fit and alignment, and make sure it's going to work before I cut it out of 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch steel, probably 1/4 inch. So I've got the piece of 16 gauge laying here. Actually, it's laying on top of a piece of 3/8, but that's fine. I'm cutting through an opening in the 3/8 inch plate. So we'll cut this out, fit it up, see how it looks. The first thing I need to do is make sure that these 4 holes, bolt holes for the engine still work. I've decided to modify this plate, make these wings a little bit larger. So I'm going to do another one here. This is the advantage of using this inexpensive metal rather than the full thickness for prototyping. All right, so something happened there. I'm going to start over again. Oh, I know what happened. My pierce delay was set too long. Yeah, so this is what happened. I have my model infusion set for 1/4 inch material, and so the pierce delay was 1.5 seconds. So it goes, that was much too long for this material. It should be 1/2 second. So this should work. We'll see. Try again. All right, we'll check out this one, see if it works. All right, so this piece of steel probably weighs 100 and, well, if it were a full sheet, it would weigh 250 pounds. So it's probably 200, 175, something like that. Keep my USB cable from getting damaged here. All right, let's get the plate dog on it. We can pick it up. Let's see. All right, so that's my template. It fits right in that spot pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it from there. I'm going to get my torch lined up on the corner of this part. All right, my pierce and cut speed should be correct for this. This is 3/16. All right, so here's a plasma table trick. So as you saw, first time I tried to cut it, it lost the arc over here because I didn't realize, I'd forgotten, I guess, that my actual template was a little bit wider than this piece of steel that I set on here. So I went off the edge of the metal, lost the arc. So I slid a piece of thin sheet metal underneath it and started the cut on the last path, and it followed that path. It went off the 3/16 plate, but the piece of sheet metal underneath it maintained the arc, and then it came back on the plate and finished the cut. So it's a situation where, in order to save a piece, you can come back and put some scrap underneath it and let it continue and finish the cut. So while it went off the plate here just a hair, I was able to finish the cut. So the part is perfectly good. Rescued that from the scrap pile. The cost to do that was just this piece of scrap I sit underneath it. So All right. That happens from time to time. You misjudge, where your edge is, and the torch loses the arc. I'm going to bend this 90-degree angle, or close to 90-degree angle here. So this is a helpful. Yeah, it actually overbent it a little bit, but that'll be fine. All right, so this is how the two plates will fit together. The engine will bolt to this, and it'll be able to drop down, get a belt on it, and then bring it up and tension it. So I need to make the pivot point here. So let me get a couple of pieces of tubing and a bolt, or piece of round stock.
Okay, so I think this is going to work. This lower frame bolts into this plate bolts into the frame, and then this plate bolts to the engine so that you can go down and then be raised up to tension the belts. All right, through some sort of screw mechanism. All right, I've got my new mounting plate in here and I've positioned it so you can see that I've got a belt on here right now. I'm going to go ahead and take it off for the time being, show you. Well, let me do this. Okay. All right, so the belt's off. So I've got the engine on the pivot, so you can see it's moving there. And I got a couple bolts through these wings for tensioning. Now this belt's not going to be long enough, but to give you an idea of what's going on here. Let me go get on the other side. So my arms are not in the way so much. All right, so the engine, the front of the engine, or this side of the engine, is tilted down. I need to get it around this pulley first. Okay, I've just got one belt on here, and like I said, this is actually too short, but it'll give a demonstration of tensioning. Tension the other side as well. So right now I've just got bolts in here for temporary okay. They're just in, and that belt's tight. So it needs to come up in at least another inch. So I need a belt that's a couple inches longer because I want this to be horizontal. It's tilted forward still. This is the longest belt I happen to have on hand. So this is actually the same size belt that was used before. So with some additional bolts welded to these ears, nuts, with some additional nuts welded to these ears and a place for the bottom of the bolt to be contained so it doesn't come move around, so it's in a specific spot. It should be relatively easy to detension and tension this. With this, it would only take, a minute. Run it down, run it back up. So I think this is going to be the answer. And, be able to fine tune it with a open end wrench as well. So I think this is going to work. And the engine is solidly mounted. The pivot you saw me weld up a few minutes ago is quite stable. Doesn't allow the engine to move. So I think this is going to work. So as you're going to see here, I've taken the hood, the front grille and the hood off just to give me some working room. But I think this is the solution. I'm going to go ahead and put the tractor back together, put the grille and the hood and the fuel tank and everything back on, hook up the choke and throttle. I had to remove the engine, as I showed you, to bolt the new plate to it, the new swivel plate. So I think this is going to work out. I think this is going to work out better than any other tensioning method that I could come up with. So, all right, I'll bring you back when I get some progress done on putting this stuff back together. Okay, so I've solved the belt tensioning issue. I got some all thread. The bolts I had didn't have enough thread, so I got pieces of all thread here. So I've got good jack screws for tensioning the belt. I'm waiting for some more belts to come. But the other issue that I created in doing that by raising the engine up, basically raising it up 2 inches, you know, I've created a problem with the hood. So I'm raising the hood up 2 inches. So in the front here, I got a piece of 2x4 there, raised 1.5 inches. That's not quite enough. I need to raise it 2 inches. So that's what I'm working on now, is a riser for underneath the hood here, the grill casting. And then I'll also raise this bracket up a couple inches. So I'm going to see where this is going to fall about like that. So it'll come up 2 inches. I think that'll work. Now, one thing I may need to deal with here is, since this clutch sticks out further than the previous pulley did, location of this wall, basically a panel here, will need to be adjusted. I may need to move the seat forward 1 inch or something. And then I'll need to, you know, adjust the position of the hood as well. So all of that has to come together. My little riser, you know, will fit on here underneath this casting. And so that's what I'm working on now. So this is the start, or at least part of my grill casting riser. It's 2 inches. It's just, you saw me weld it up out of angle iron. Got a little taper on here to match the casting taper. So, all right, I need to cut a plate to fit in here. So I'm going to go do that on the plasma table. Let's see what the dimensions need to be. Oh, I'm not sure what happened there. My plasma torch just died. My plasma torch just died. Let me see what I can do. All right, something happened to my plasma torch. Turn it on, it comes on for a second and then shuts off, so I'm going to have to investigate that. But I'm going to carry on and try to finish this. Not really happy about having to do this, but got this tacked together. Let's put it on the tractor and see how it works, what it looks like. Okay, folks, this video is getting pretty long, so I'm going to cut it off at this point. We'll come back next week, continuing to work on the new drive system and deal with the change in the motor height. Not sure if the riser that I'm working on is going to be what I finally settle on. We'll see how it looks, make a decision from there. But in any case, I need to address that as a result of the change in the engine height. So we'll be back in a week, continuing to work on this, hopefully get the tractor running again. So until then, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.